Dear friends, English literature, romantic poetry, S.T. Coleridge, selected poems, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, brief questions with answers. Brief questions 1 to 50. Question 1. Who is called the poet of the supernatural? Answer. Coleridge is called the poet of the supernatural. Question 2. When and where was S.T. Coleridge born? Answer. Samuel Taylor Coleridge was born in Devonshire on the 1st October 1772. Question 3. When could Coleridge read the Bible and the Arabian Nights? Answer. He could read the Bible and the Arabian Nights before he was 5. Question 4. Whom did Coleridge marry? Answer. He married Sarah Freker, the sister-in-law of Southey, another romantic poet. Question 5. Why did Coleridge take opium? Answer. He took opium to relieve attacks of neuralgia. Question 6. Who helped Coleridge to get rid of opium taking? Answer. His physician, Mr. Gilman, helped him to get rid of opium taking. Question 7. What are the masterpieces of S.T. Coleridge? Answer. The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, Christabel, and Kubla Khan are the masterpieces of S.T. Coleridge. Question 8. Why is Coleridge called the most representative of all English romantic poets? Answer. He is called the most representative of all English romantic poets because he presents in his work almost all the triumphs and perils of the romantic spirit. Question 9. Who settled an annuity of £150 on Coleridge for life? Answer. Josiah and Thomas Wywood settled an annuity of £150 on Coleridge for life in 1798, but withdrew in 1811. Question 10. When was the Rime of the Ancient Mariner first published? Answer. The poem was first published in 1798 in the Lyrical Ballads. Question 11. Who planned to write the Rime of the Ancient Mariner? Answer. Both Wordsworth and Coleridge planned to write the Rime of the Ancient Mariner on November 20, 1797, when they were walking in the Quantocks. Question 12. On what was the Rime of the Ancient Mariner founded? Answer. The poem was founded on a dream of Coleridge's friend Cruikshank. Question 13. What was said in the argument of the Rime of the Ancient Mariner? Answer. It was said in the argument of the poem that how a ship being driven by a storm entered the Pacific Ocean, and in what manner the ancient mariner came back to his own country. Question 14. What is an argument? Answer. An argument is a brief summary of the plot prefixed to a literary work. It is a prose statement summarizing the plot or stating the meaning of a long poem. Question 15. How is the Rime of the Ancient Mariner divided? Answer. The poem is divided into 7 parts. Question 16. Whom did the Ancient Mariner stop? Answer. The Ancient Mariner stopped one of the 3 wedding guests going to the feast. Question 17. How did the Ancient Mariner stop one of the 3 wedding guests? Answer. The Ancient Mariner stopped one of the 3 wedding guests by his long grey beard and glittering eyes. Question 18. What does the glittering eye suggest? Answer. Glittering eye is a mark of intelligence or of great willpower which the Ancient Mariner exercises over the wedding guest whom he stopped. Question 19. Why did the Ancient Mariner stop one of the wedding guests? Answer. He stopped one of the wedding guests to tell him the story of his last journey on the sea. Question 20. How is the hand of the Ancient Mariner? Answer. His hand is skinny, that is bony and thin. Question 21. How did the Ancient Mariner begin his story? Answer. The Ancient Mariner began his story abruptly without heeding the guest's words by saying, "There was a ship." Question 22. How did the wedding guest listen to the story of the ancient mariner? Answer. The wedding guest was so fascinated that he listened to the story of the ancient mariner with the docility of a 3-year child. Question 23. The ship was cheered. What does the line suggest? Answer. The line suggests that the friends and relatives who came to see off the sailors of the ship wished them a happy voyage. Question 24. How did the sailors sail away from the harbor? Answer. They sailed away merrily, leaving behind the church, the hill, and the lighthouse. These objects gradually disappeared one after another. Question 25. How many sailors were there on the board of the ship? Answer. There were 201 sailors, including the old mariner, on the board of the ship. Question 26. The sun came out upon the left. What does the line suggest? Answer. It means that the east was on the left side of the ship. It indicates that the ship was sailing southward. Question 27. Why did the wedding guest wedding guest beat his breast? Answer. The wedding guest beat his breast because he heard the loud sound of the bassoon, which indicated that the bride has walked into the hall. Question 28. What is a bassoon? Answer. A bassoon is a wind instrument producing a deep sound. Question 29. How is the bride? Answer. She is exceedingly beautiful, like a red rose. Question 30. Who nodded their heads before the bride? Answer. A band of musicians nodded their heads merrily as they passed through the hall before the bride. Question 31. And now the storm blast came, and he was tyrannous and strong. What figure of speech is used here? Answer. Personification is used here. The storm is here personified as having the quality of a person being tyrannous and strong. Question 32. By what was the ship of the ancient mariner driving towards the South Pole? Answer. The ship of the ancient mariner was driven by the stormy weather. Question 33. It cracked and growled and roared and howled. What figure of speech is used here? Answer. It is an example of onomatopoeia. The sound of the cracking and growling, roaring, and howling gives us an exact picture of the icebergs crashing against one another. Question 34. What is an albatross? Answer. An albatross is a large seabird found mostly in the tropics, particularly in the south of the Cape of Good Hope. Question 35. Through which did the albatross come? Answer. The albatross came through Suffolk. Question 36. How was the albatross received by the ancient mariner and his companions? Answer. The albatross was received by the ancient mariner and his companions with great joy and hospitality. They regarded it as a human being with divine associations. Question 37. What kind of bird is the albatross? Answer. The albatross is a bird of good omen. Question 38. Why is the albatross regarded as a bird of good omen? Answer. The mariners regards the albatross as a bird of good omen because after the appearance of the albatross, the ice began to split and the ship sailed on easily by the south wind. Question 39. Who killed the albatross and why? Answer. The ancient mariner killed the albatross without any apparently reason. Question 40. How did the sailors accomplice in the crime of the old sailor? Answer. When the fog disappeared because of the rising up of the sun, the sailors accomplice in the crime of the old sailor but by justifying his act of killing the albatross. Question 41. What happened to the ship after the killing of the albatross? Answer. After killing of the albatross, the ship entered into the calm Pacific Ocean by the south wind, and the ship stayed there motionless. Question 42. How did the other sailors punish the ancient mariner for the killing of the albatross? Answer. The other sailors punished the ancient mariner by hanging the dead albatross around his neck. Question 43. Why couldn't the sailors speak? Answer. The sailors could not speak because their throats were very thirsty. Question 44. How did the old sailor become able to cry, "A sail, a sail"? Answer. The old sailor became able to cry, "A sail, a sail," moistening his throat with his blood, which he got from biting his arm. Question 45. See, I cried. She tags no more. What is she? What is meant by she tags no more? Answer. She is the phantom ship or the ship of death. She tags no more means the ship is coming straight forward without changing her course anymore. Question 46. What did the old sailor think about the purpose of the coming of the phantom ship or spectre ship? Answer. The old sailor thinks that the spectre ship is coming to give them relief from the suffering. Question 47. What happened to the ancient mariner when he saw the skeleton ship approaching them? Answer. When the ancient mariner saw the skeleton ship approaching them, his heart began to beat loudly. Question 48. Who were the crew of the spectre ship? Answer. The crew of the spectre ship were a woman and her companion Death. Question 49. How were the leaves of the woman on the spectre ship? What do the leaves suggest? Answer. The leaves of the woman on the spectre ship were red, which suggests life. Question 50. What is poetry according to S.T. Coleridge? According to English poet and philosopher Samuel Taylor Coleridge, poetry aims to provide pleasure and is achieved through the use of language in a state of excitement. Coleridge's definition of poetry includes the following characteristics: pleasure, purpose, proportion, imagination, and activity. Coleridge also defined poetry as the best words in the best order. Thank you friends for watching my video.